news stories that I thought were interesting, and I'm going to just skip to the biggest one. Yeah, so China, okay, the United States makes these AI models, these large language models, and they're incredibly expensive. It costs about like $50 billion to train the current version, and we promised an investment of $500 billion over the next 4 years to improve them, and China just swooped in with their AI, which is apparently as good as our best, which is ChatGPT o1, and they say it only cost them $6 million to make it. That is 10,000 times cheaper than ours. That is a Sputnik moment. The AI stocks tanked. Everybody freaked out. They were betting on Elon Musk and OpenAI company and Sam Altman and everybody saying these guys are geniuses. Now they look like a bunch of idiots. And China seems way ahead of us. And I must say this suits me because I think our embargoes against China and our hostility towards China have been really stupid and counterproductive. And instead of us being able to strangle China so they fall behind, they just said, well, we don't need you anyway, and charged ahead without us.
With lower level technology, they came up with smarter solutions.
Well, right now they're using the older version of NVIDIA GPUs, but they're just smarter about how to use them, but they're already building their own AI chips. So, I don't know where we got the idea that we could hold back China. They're bigger than us. I think, and now Trump's whole plan is to go into isolationism and abandon all our allies, so they have no choice but to go to China. So we're just handing the world over to them while we hide in our corner and pretend that it doesn't matter. But I don't think that's a wise decision. But anyway, so I thought you should see this thing run. This thing is interesting. There it is, DeepSeek. You can't make an account anymore because there was such a flood of traffic, it got DDoSed, but I made an account yesterday before they shut it down. So you can ask it normal things like...
you cannot use it without an account, right?
Right, you got to make a free Google account, but yeah. So let me get an example of some stuff that's difficult, because it was pretty interesting when I did this yesterday. Now, I got an AI class, and I have the first project here. I found a whole list of problems that it can't answer very well. So here's one which this could not answer well yesterday. So let's see what it makes out of it today. Here's DeepSeek. So the question is, a farmer wants to cross a river and take a wolf, a goat, and a cabbage. He has a boat with 3 compartments, so he can do it in one trip. But here's, right, but it makes it very complicated. It overcomplicates it, and it makes it transport all 3 items together. And they misunderstand it. Option 2, 3, transport the goat first, 3rd crossing, 4th crossing. So the end result is, yesterday it was 7 crossings it settled, which is an absurdly wrong answer. This is the first one I tried. Here we go. Here's the final answer. Well, there you go. It's much better than yesterday. It told me it would take 7 crossings. We had some complicated thing where you take the wolf and the goat over, and then you take the goat back alone, and then you get the cabbage, and you go back and forth like you're an idiot. And it wised up. By today, it's wised up. So that's interesting. Now, the one I thought was really interesting was this one. How can the USA prepare for war against China? This one was very interesting. What happened yesterday was interesting. Let's see what happens today. There. It starts giving me really good ideas. Understand China's capabilities, identify potential flashpoints, modernize the armed forces, enhance alliances. It gave me a 10-point plan that was a good 10-point plan. Diplomatic and strategic measures. It's going to tell me to support independence in Taiwan, which is public awareness, educate the public, ethical and legal considerations, environmental change, prepare for pandemic, adapt to emerging threats. Final answer. Here's the 10-point plan, and one of these is support independence in Taiwan, democracy in Taiwan.
But direct questions about China are censored.
Well, yesterday it printed all that out and then erased it and said, I can't talk about that.
Yeah.
But now it didn't erase it. So it looks like but it no longer tells me to support independence of Taiwan. So their censorship seems to have become much more clever In fact, I don't think there's anything about Taiwan here.
And do a search on Control F.
That's true. Taiwan, a critical issue where China's claims could lead to conflict. That's not what it said yesterday. It said support independence and democracy in Taiwan, and then it erased it and said, I can't talk about this. Well, how about this one? What important event I'm probably not spelling it right, but one good thing about
with the IE.
one good thing about LLMs is you don't really need to spell things right. This one was funny too. It put up the first sentence, here it goes, and there. It put up the answer and then erased it. Oops, can't talk about that. So this shows you how it works, and this is how they all work. You can't put a security barrier inside an LLM. You can't train it to obey security rules. You can't train it to do anything. All your training data is just sort of a suggestion. And that's why they will, you tell it to do something 10 times, and that don't mean it will never do it. And there is no way to say, I'm pseudo, do it. There's no way to give it any rules it will absolutely obey. All your data is just treated like all the other data, and it has a tendency to follow the data, but a chance of randomly not paying attention. So the only way to put in a security boundary is outside the LLM, in a deterministic language like Python. So you have to let the LLM make this stuff, then analyze it with like keyword searches to decide if it breaks your rules. And so if they were to wait until it generated it to test, to show it to me, it would look like it took a whole minute. It would look like it was slow and useless. So they spit out the words as they come out, and then only after they're out can it notice, wait a minute, that has forbidden words, I can't talk about that. But this creates this interesting situation where I could totally, just make a screenshot or something.
Technically, how do you think it's done? They create a library of keywords
Yeah,
that kicks in?
Sure, and I think they probably
starts
connect
in
it to the Great Firewall. The Great Firewall is already filtering all these topics in their chat rooms and stuff. They already have a censorship engine. They probably just connect it to that. But they can't do it until after the LLM creates the information. But anyway, it is very good at reasoning. Like you saw, it even gets smarter. I mean, I gave it another question, which fools a lot of them. You're playing Russian roulette. This is one that most LLMs cannot answer intelligently. You're playing Russian roulette, your opponent puts in 5 bullets, spins the chambers and fires it himself, but no bullet comes out. He gives you the choice whether or not to spin the chambers before firing at you. So what should you do? Most of them get this wrong. But here's why this is a reasoning model. It breaks it up into steps. And so does Anthropic has been doing this for at least the last several months. If you ask it a question, it doesn't just answer it. It breaks it into like 6 little steps and then answers each little step, which does greatly improve these. And so he gets the right answer, by the way. They should spin the chambers because your chance of survival goes from 0% to 16%. That's the right answer. So anyway, this thing is pretty interesting. Yeah. So I wanted,
I don't know if it is true. I noticed that Claude, the Anthropic LLM, gives longer answers compared to other LLMs.
Well, I think so, and so does this, because it has this reasoning stuff.
Right.
At first it does this, breaks down the problem into little chunks the way you should, and then reasons on them separately. So that's the reasoning part.
It should be the consequence, yes, right.
Yeah, and that makes the answer longer, but often more accurate. Now, yesterday, a few of these, it would just overly, there's another one it got wrong. Let me try this. Another one it got wrong yesterday was, I may not be able to remember the other one that it got wrong. Oh, yes, I remember this. Let me see if I can find it. It's the one in a trolley. The trolley problem. There we are. This one, it got wrong yesterday, and just the way I would have got it wrong. I got problems just like this wrong on my PhD qualifying exam, because a runaway trolley is heading down the tracks away from 5 people. You're near a lever that can switch it to another track. Does it impact people's lives if you pull the lever? Obviously it doesn't. It's going away from the people, but you don't notice that because it's a familiar problem where you have to choose this track or that track. And yesterday, it totally misunderstood this question and gave me the usual wrong answer. The trolley problem is a classical ethic dilemma. There you go. And see, notice it got it wrong. I saw it go by. On the alternate track, there is one person. It's still making a mistake it made yesterday. It didn't even read the question thoroughly. Instead, it recognized this question has like a 90% match with a standard question, and it's giving me the standard answer for that standard question, even though it's totally wrong. Pulling the lever significantly impacts people's lives because it didn't actually read and understand the question. and this is a fundamental problem with large language models, it's going away from the people. So it doesn't matter what you do. It's not going to run over anybody. But it didn't notice that. It noticed that it's close to this famous problem where you have to choose whether there are 5 people or 1 people, and there are books written about this, whether it's ethical and how's your ethics work in it. So it got off in this, and I've made this mistake like in capture the flag contests.
I would say, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just speculating, but
Yeah.
based on what you're saying, it
Yeah.
seems to me that if you use ambiguous word, actually not ambiguous in
Yeah.
in the sense of polysemic, that they have different meanings. If you use words that have different meanings, I think this is more likely to happen. You know,
Yes.
the confusion, the hallucination of the LLM.
Yes, but this
Because-
one uses another trick which is extremely effective. If you take a problem that is famous, where it has trained on data that includes 100 copies of that problem, and you modify it a little, it won't notice the modification.
If you modify.
And just like a lot of students won't. I mean, I heard a psychologist talk about how he nearly flunked physics because he studied physics this way. He would memorize every page of the book, and when he got a test, he would try to figure out which page matched this problem. He didn't know you had to learn the procedure and solve a new problem. And it took him more than half of the semester to figure that out. His grades went from like D- up to B. And that's amazing to me and interesting as a teacher because it never occurred to me to study physics that way. In fact, that's why I studied math and physics, because you don't have to memorize anything. All you need to know is F equals ma. And the geologists and the biologists are memorizing all these flowers and diseases and rocks and terms. And I said, man, I could never do that. That's no pattern, all these words, just I've memorized them all. I didn't have to memorize anything. But the psychologists are used to memorizing stuff. And you can tell that's what this has done. They found 100 pages with a problem like that. So they average them together and create the answer.
This contradicts my speculation because I was thinking, okay, if some words, if some keywords
Yeah.
are ambiguous,
Yes, that's
then
very-
the
yeah.
LLM model still
Yeah.
looks for the higher correlation, I would say.
Well, no, I think this is very important. The model does not understand a question. It doesn't know how to understand a sentence. It doesn't know the difference between a noun and a verb. It doesn't understand the answer. All it's doing is like a keyword search. It's taking these words and finding pages that have a strong match to those words.
Lexical correspondence.
Yeah, it's made a mathematical model of the internet based on observing a whole bunch of data. But this one's, but however, anyway, it's pretty interesting. It has been trained supposedly on feedback, where it showed these to humans and humans had to rate it. But they say it only costs $6 million. Anyway, so this is amazing considering it costs 1% of 1% of what it costs to make the American model that does the same thing. We look like idiots. And I think we were pretty much idiots to start this whole hostility with China, man. I think.
I mean, I don't know. Do you have an expression here in the U.S. that may translate in the roughly as necessity is the mother of invention?
Sure, yeah. But I don't think it was necessary to start all this war with China. I think it was a bad idea, and I wish we would knock it off.
Well, now the next step, although a little bit fantapolitical, is that it seems that Trump wants to not reach, but wants to converge. Let's say it this way: converge with Putin on some baseline, on some political guidelines, because they want to share Greenland. They want to vanquish
Anyway,
Greenland for the minerals, and then they say,
Yeah.
we share.
Yeah, and
we share it, we eliminate, we.
Denmark is in NATO. We're already allied with them. Trump keeps abusing our allies. He wants to abuse Canada, Mexico, and Greenland when we're already allied with them. All he's going to do is drive them away. He doesn't know how to treat his friends. I know.